Hey, welcome to Bathwinger. We just flew into Bozeman today, and so I'm here at the hotel just about ready to go to the airport and take off. So I wanted to record a quick video. So I was able to change careers a couple years ago and start flying, and I retired from the military. I feel like there's a lot of guys out there, a lot of people out there that are interested in making a career change and starting to fly. Maybe it was a childhood dream and some things got in the way. So I wanted to share my story to hopefully help inspire you, if you're thinking about it, to go for it. So my story really, I fly a Cirrus SR-22 for a company called Bathfitter right now, and I do a little independent flight instructing on the side. And I was able to retire from the military a couple years ago. So I'll see if I can get a good picture of that. But my story started really in 2000. I was going to Utah State University, and I had actually joined the Air National Guard, gone through basic training and tech school and all those things so that I could have money to pay for school. And so I started flying. I'd been there for about a year, and then 9/11 happened. And if you were, alive back then, you know that it devastated the airline industry for a long time. And consequently, my unit was deployed right after 9/11. And so I missed spring semester, which started to put me back a little bit. And over the subsequent years, I was deployed several times. And so I would always miss semesters, and it would cause me to miss prerequisites. And, I'd have to take a break in flying and all that kind of stuff. And so it took me until 2007 to finally finish that college degree. And if you watch Tommy Boy, one of my favorite shows, 7 years, I should probably be a doctor. But I ended up with my bachelor's degree. And by then, I had actually taken a full-time job with the Air National Guard for my last, semester of school because, it's just a good opportunity. And so my plan was to flight instruct part-time, and I got a job as a flight instructor. So I'd worked full-time as an avionics technician in the Air National Guard, and then flight instruct part-time. And I did that for a while. And of course, if you know history, 2008 housing downturn happened. And so none of the airlines were hiring, nobody was flying. And because I was trying to, work the guard and the flying, became difficult to raise a family, and I had young kids at that time. And so I made a really tough decision in 2009 to walk away from flying for a while, and I pursued my military career. And I did that. I worked in avionics for a while, moved into the quality assurance office, and then I ended my career in safety, which was a great opportunity on the aviation side because I love everything about aviation. I loved working on planes. I love the safety aspect of stuff. Love diving into that. Love flying. And so took that hiatus. And around 2018, I had a good friend of mine that was same situation. He'd been in the military trying to get his flying, and he had walked away from aviation, kind of the same thing, and pursued his military career. And he called me up and he just said, "Hey, have you looked at the aviation industry lately?" And I hadn't. And so I got on some of the pilot forums, and it seemed like things were going good for the airlines. Pay was getting better and all those things. And so I decided, I was getting close to being able to retire from the military. And so I started looking into it. I thought, maybe I'll start flying. And then by the time I hit that point where I can retire, I'll be able to transition over to aviation. And so I started flying, and I was kind of dumb because I had let my flight instructor certificate expire. And so that was kind of the first order of business, was to get that renewed. And so I started doing all these discovery flights to try to find the best situation for me. And I ended up meeting a guy, and I would split flight time with him. And he offered up to sell a share of his airplane. And that's how I bought into a 172. And that's probably one of the best things I've done. I've got a video on flying, doing training in your own airplane you should check out. But, so I did that. I ended up getting hired as a SkyWest cadet. And unfortunately, the way my luck goes, my orientation date was March 30th, 20, where it was canceled because of COVID. And COVID just wrecked the aviation industry because there was so much uncertainty. Nobody knew what was going on. And so they were furloughing pilots and all that kind of stuff. And so that didn't work out for me. That was a little depressing. My wife, she kind of joked. She's like, maybe aviation isn't your thing, because it seemed like all these black swan events kind of hit as I was getting things going. But I was determined. So I finished off my flight instructor, got my CFII. And in the meantime, I'd been posting some pictures of me flying on Facebook, and old friend of mine who had built some businesses and was sick of driving to those businesses was going to buy a Cirrus. And so he called me up and he said, "Hey, I'm going to buy this Cirrus for my company. Would you want to fly it?" And I was ecstatic, as you can imagine. And so, of course, I took up that offer and started flying the Cirrus. So I went back to Tennessee, did my Cirrus transition training, and then we flew the brand new plane back from Tennessee. I got a bunch of flight time just initially, and we started flying once a week. And I flew with my friend for a couple years, and then he decided to get his pilot's license. I think I was making it look too easy. And so he ended up getting his pilot's license. But in the meantime, he ended up selling that first plane that he had bought. And the individual from Bathfitter was in the same boat. He was sick of traveling and wanted to get an airplane. And so he needed a plane, a pilot, and a hangar. And we actually, the original guy that I was flying for had built some hangars and was selling the plane and the hangar. And I was able to get a job flying for Bathfitter. And so that's where I'm at now. So it's something that I love flying the Cirrus. We fly to some cool places like Bozeman today, do a lot of fun stuff. Of course, I have my military pension that'll come in. And so, life's good. It was really challenging and really, over the years, just having to go through all these setbacks just was really tough. But I think in the end, it made me appreciate it just that much more because I love what I'm doing now. It's so satisfying to fulfill that childhood dream. And so if you're thinking about making that change, maybe you're getting to a point where you can retire, maybe you're in the military, I would highly encourage you to do it. And it takes a little bit of planning, and I'm going to make a video, so check that out here, about some of the keys to success to changing careers. So if you're thinking about changing careers, leave a comment in the comment section. I love hearing guys' stories on what they're doing. And if you have any questions for me, check out some of my other videos or leave a question in the comments. And until I see you next time, fly safe.